Tori Jackson, and welcome back to Dallas Summer Musical's Black Arts Matter series. Today we have an amazing guest with us, Miss Gillian Clifford. Hi, Miss Gillian, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing well. I'm so glad to have you here.
I'm excited.
So we're gonna just go ahead and get started. You can kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of jump into some questions, okay?
Okay, well, I'm from Buffalo, New York, so way up north, not Texas. I went to school at Howard University, and I got my BFA in dance and a minor in communications. I currently dance with Dallas Black Dance Theater Encore, and it's my first season with them. I'm very excited about that, and yeah, I think that's the skinny of it, so.
Great. So I want to start with the question of Black identity and what that is to and for you.
I think Black identity to me means, as like a people, we have went through a lot of struggle and a lot of fighting in this country, and we're from so many different places. Sometimes it feels like our identity is like really mixed up or not clear, but I think that instead of thinking of like cultural roots, we can think of how we've made our own culture, and that making us have our strong Black identity. And I think that there's beauty in the struggle of what we've experienced, and out of that struggle has come like different dance and music and art and all these wonderful things that have added to not only Black American culture, but American culture in general. And so I think that's why we take so much pride in being Black, and that's why it's important to me as well, because we have done so much for ourselves, even though we have experienced, unfortunately, so much like pushback and so many unfortunate circumstances. So yeah, I guess just like everything that has come out of what we have faced as like a people.
It has birthed a lot of beauty.
Yeah, exactly.
And as far as Black identity and creative spaces for you, how do you feel like you've been able to fully express that at this point in your career, or you're still striving to kind of get to that point where you feel like your Black identity, in whatever work it calls, I feel like it shows up in any work, you know, inevitably, but have you had a chance to express that the way that you would like to?
I think back in high school, I grew up in a predominantly white area, and I danced with predominantly white dancers, and that's fine, but I did think that during that time I felt restricted, just because, and I don't think I knew that I was restricted yet, because I didn't grow up with a lot of Black creative inspiration. You know, it was mostly, you know, white people around me, and they're great, like there's nothing wrong with that, but it wasn't until I went to college at a historically Black university that you come into it and you're literally just surrounded by everybody who looks like you, and everybody who talks like you, and everybody who, you know, and it's everybody who looks like you, but we take so many different forms, and we take so many different arts and experiences, but it kind of gets rid of the necessary like shared experience. Like we have this unspoken rule of like, okay, we know what we go through in society, so we can go past that, and now we can just enjoy doing what we need to do. And so like entering a dance program at an HBCU, it just felt more like home, and it felt more vulnerable because everybody knows that we have to work twice as hard to get half as much. And so it's like people are pushing you, but it doesn't feel oppressive, and it doesn't feel like they're pushing you to make you feel less than, they're pushing you up. And yeah, I think that inspired me to delve more into my Black artistry, and just like Black dance in general, it has so much depth because we have so many stories, happy, sad, angry, that we can incorporate in our dance moves. And so there's just like so much more to explore when I realized there was more to explore. And you learn about all these Black dancers and like the history of like where you learn these movements from and why they did it. And yeah, that was definitely an opening. And now that I'm in a Black dance company, I mean, it's just continues to grow on from there. So yeah, just experienced a lot in regards to that. And I feel like the flower kind of bloomed as I grew into like my adulthood.
Yes, I love that. And you're coming from Buffalo, New York, and so you went to Howard, DC. Not only is it a black school, HBCU, but it's a black town. DC, you know, there's go-go. There's so much history there, musically and artistic wise. What was it like, just not having to unpack anything and just say, I'm here for the art and to learn, like, you know, can you kind of just express a little bit more on, you know, things that you really took away and brought into your professional career?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is that when I stepped onto campus, it was my first choice, but I'm a legacy, and it wasn't my first choice because of that. I was gonna go somewhere else, and I stepped on campus and I said, no, this is it. Yeah, it was exactly like that. And just like being around all those people, it lifts you up because everybody is just thriving in excellence. Like everybody's doing well, everybody's finding their niche and their friends and you know, whatever makes them feel good. And so like, I don't know, it's just a completely different space to not have to talk about those things. You know, like when you're learning in school Black history and they're talking about mostly slavery, and then it's awkward for you being the only Black person in the room. And like, you know, they're looking at you and you're like, I didn't experience slavery. Like, you know, just because I'm Black doesn't mean that, you know, I'm the center point of this conversation. So like removing that whole thing, I think it just feels like a breath of fresh air, and just like it's something that you don't have to go through over and over again when you enter new spaces. And so like bringing that into like my career, I mean, you have the etiquette and like the poise that we bring, the professionalism that you learn from a place like Howard. It just like expands into so many different parts of life. Yeah.
I love that. And as far as Black History Month goes, we definitely want to get into honoring some Black historical figures. So who is someone, Black historic figure, who has inspired you artistically? I know it may be hard to narrow that down, but who is somebody in this moment that, you know, you would probably like to honor and express how they've inspired you?
I think about that a lot because, especially in dance, there's just so many great dancers. You know, it's like, because it's so, I mean, art in general is subjective, so of course that makes it hard. But even though this might sound cliche, my artistic inspiration is definitely Beyonce. I, you know, like many people, grew up listening to her, but like as an adult now, or like a pre-adult, seeing how much effort she puts into every aspect of her artistry is so inspiring. Like, she's a singer, but she's also a dancer, and she's also an actress, and so there's just like so much that she incorporates herself in, rather than like taking a step back from her music videos or her tours. She's in it. Like every second she's like, I have this vision and I want it to look like this, this, and this. And not everybody does that, or everybody has the capability to be so versatile in, you know, so many different art forms. And she just pushes through so much. Like, I remember watching her homecoming video, and she was talking about like her very strict diet she had to go on, and she just had a kid, and like she was doing all this stuff. And yeah, so it's definitely her, just artistically in general, because if we were talking specifically about dance, there's just so much, you know, even my peers that I work with now.
Yeah, I definitely can co-sign. I think she's somebody who, she's always learning. And she's such a student. So, you know, you take that with natural talent. And one of my favorite things is seeing her, you know, in those documentaries where she's not even on stage. She's immersed in so much of the work that goes into it, from costuming and stage design. So I definitely co-sign with that. So as far as your style of dance, or I know you're classically trained, but are there any other styles of dance that, you know, really speak to you, that you feel like, you know, even if I'm not on stage or doing this professional, when I'm at home, this is what I lean to?
I would say, so like you said, I'm mostly trained in things like ballet, contemporary, and jazz, and all those great styles. And I do favor those. Those are some of my favorites, but I really love hip hop. It's just, and there's so many like branches off of hip hop, like crumping and locking and just general hip hop in general. It's just such a beautiful art form, and I'm so glad that nowadays, like, you see all those YouTube videos or like those studio videos with the cool lighting and everything, but it brings it to normal people per se. And I have so many people like send me videos, or you should learn this, you should learn that. So I think hip hop has just in general, I mean, besides it being a great dance form and something that's really fun to do, it's been able to spread dance awareness and like get people sort of involved in the arts in that way. So I love hip hop, and I also love house. I love house dancing. It's just so fun. It's so energetic. I wish I was better at it, but you know, some of those classes are a little bit more hard to find. But I'd say those two specifically speak to me.
Yeah, and do you also teach, right? Like you do like classes. Have you always been kind of passionate and want to like pursue that more, or is that something you kind of you dabble into but not so much?
So I used to think that I couldn't be a dance teacher because I just never, I'm the youngest of three sisters, so like I never had experience with like kids or like playing around with them, so I just never thought that I could like relate, or even with older people, I didn't think that I had the knowledge yet to be able to teach, you know, adults dance. But coming here actually opened my eyes and was like, yeah, you can do this. Like, you literally have a degree in dance. And not a lot of people tell you that you can do things even though you're not 100% sure. So I started subbing classes. I don't teach at a specific place like as a weekly teacher right now, but I do sub, and I love it so much. I didn't expect it to be that way, but I do. And yeah, now I see myself probably in the future engaging a little bit more in that, but it's just something that you have to jump into and be confident with your knowledge, because you already have so much to share, even if you're not like a retired dancer or something.
What would you say to somebody who, because you know, people who come to dance concerts and dance shows, they're usually well versed in theater, or they're kind of more familiar with their world. It's very rare when you just get random people to say, even with just like a stage play or a musical.
Right.
So, what would you say to somebody who, you know, might enjoy, you know, coming to see live movement? Like, what would you say that maybe it offers you as a performer, but also feedback that you've probably gotten from audience members?
Well, I would say that a lot of people in general sometimes don't understand dance, and I think the hard part about that is that you don't have to understand it. Like there's, or even like things like museums, like you have people who love to go to museums and you have people who don't. And it's because I think that instead of appreciating or even like creating their own story about something, they're so stuck on the fact that like they need to know what it's about, or they need to know this, that, and the third. And it's not always like that. And so I would say like somebody who wants to see live art, just come open-minded and enjoy not only, you know, the beautiful stuff that you see in front of you, but acknowledge the hard work that goes behind it. And if you don't understand the movement, tap into the emotions that you're feeling, because that's such a big part of dance that I think a lot of people miss, because they're so focused on the line, or they're so focused on like the bodies, or sometimes you're all the way up in the back seats and you can't like really see their faces, but like tapping into like how that emotionally affects you, or like what the music does and how the music melds with the music. Like there's just so many ways to think about it, instead of like coming to it with a certain thought in mind, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think with dance too, a lot of people, they probably don't go into it realizing, but you're not using all of your senses, but yet you are. So like you don't have to hear dialogue, when you can see it, you can feel it, even with the music. So there's a lot of stuff happening. And so I would love to see even more people from different demographics, especially with Dallas Black in particular, because the work is just so beautiful. I've never left a Dallas Black concert or show just like, oh, that was cute, you know. It has always been like literally breathtaking. So I love the work that y'all do. So kind of wrapping things up, what is some advice that you would give to young Gillian? Maybe before her first dance class or her Howard audition or whatever age, be it artistic, career, or life advice, what would you say to her?
I think I would say that you can do it and that you are enough, because as a dancer, and I think artists in general have this, you have this tendency to be like a perfectionist because it's art and you want to always put your best foot forward, but sometimes we get so lost in that fact that we forget that there is no perfection and there's only subjection, there's only putting your best foot forward. And so a lot of the times I feel like I've doubted my talents or what I feel like I could do. And even like being in Dallas Black right now, when I was a freshman in college and I saw them perform for the first time, I was like that's my company, like I have to be in that. And even coming up to senior year, I didn't know that I would be here so fast, like, cause I just didn't, they're just so good that I didn't know that I could also be on the stage with them. And now I am, and I'm realizing like at some point everybody can do the step. It's just what you bring to the table and your individualism and like honoring that and not trying to be like somebody else, because everything that's meant for you will happen for you, you know, and just like manifesting that. So I think the thing is just like have confidence and move forward, knowing that you might not feel like the best in the room, but you're you and nobody else can be you. And that's the level up that you have over everybody else, you know?
I love that. I feel like if you can walk, you can dance. I had a dance teacher used to say that. You can walk, you can dance. Everybody has their own beat, their own rhythm. So at the end of the day, what you bring to the table is good enough. Yes. So thank you so much, Gillian, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's been so great speaking with you. This has been Dallas Summer Musical's Black Arts Matter. We will see you next time. Thank you.